What's up everyone, it's Anthony from AB Fitness Center. Today I'm going to be giving you the secret to getting in shape. That's right, the secret. There's two key things that you need to be doing in order to get in good shape. So first and foremost, I want to define what good shape actually means. Great shape, lean. That means different things to everybody. To me, getting great shape means getting really lean. To you, it may be losing 5 pounds. So I want to define that by what I'm talking about. So when I say get in great shape, I am referring to losing body fat and changing your body composition, meaning altering the ratio that you have of muscle to fat. So you don't want to just lose a bunch of weight, because then typically what happens when you lose a bunch of weight, you lose a bunch of muscle and you are flabby. You've lost weight, but your body fat has not changed. So when I say body fat, I'm talking about the fat that you see in the mirror. So if you look in the mirror, no matter what weight you are and you're unhappy with what you see and you're like, oh, I can pinch here, that's body fat. So when I say get in shape, I am talking about losing body fat. It's very important that I define that so this way we're on the same page. So if you're unhappy with a certain area of your body, that's body fat, and I'm going to explain to you today the two key elements that you need in order to actually lose that body fat. So let's get rolling. On my board here, I have written out a bunch of different things that you can do to lose body fat. So I'll run through them really, really fast. I'm going to try to keep this video short. So you have Orange Theory, you have Weight Watchers, hours of cardio, keto, AB Fitness, which is my personal training company, the Gastric Sleeve, gyms, Shakeology, or any shake program. People try to get you to do those things. Beachbody tapes or on-demand videos, boot camps, and intermittent fasting. So there are two keys that you need to make sure that you have in order to get in great shape. Key number one, and this is, again, in order for any of these things to help you to lose body fat, these two keys must be in place. So key number one is going to be a calorie deficit, meaning you're eating less calories than your body's burning. So let's write that in. Calorie deficit. Okay? Calorie deficit. Now, we're talking about key number two. And again, when it comes to losing body fat, is going to be progressive. My handwriting is really bad. Progressive strength training. So those are the two key elements that you need in order to get in the best shape possible and lose as much body fat as possible. Now, let me explain. If we pull any of these elements and attach them to the keys, we'll see if we'll actually lose body fat. In order for you to lose body fat, you need to basically tell your body like, hey, you need to get rid of this fat, you need to get rid of this tissue, and the only way to do that is in a calorie deficit. But you also need to tell your body that you need to hold on to muscle mass. Again, we're looking to alter our body composition, and muscle is very important with that. Like, your goal might not be to get bulky, right? Or look like a bodybuilder, or gain muscle, right? That's not the goal. But the goal is to maintain the amount of muscle mass that you have so you can lose the fat and be as toned and in shape as possible and as lean as possible. So for right now, if you're 150 pounds and you have 100 pounds of muscle and 50 pounds of fat, you want to lose the 50 pounds of fat and not 1 pound of muscle, because then you'll be as lean as possible. But if you lost, let's just say 50 pounds total, but you lost 30 pounds of fat, but you also lost 20 pounds of muscle, you're probably not going to look as good as you want to look. So we'll start with Orange Theory first. So Orange Theory is a fitness modality. They basically use a lot of cardio, and yes, they do use some weights, but in order for Orange Theory to work, we have to ask, okay, are you in a calorie deficit when you do Orange Theory? So yes, you're going to burn a lot of calories every time you go. Say you go 3 times a week and you burn a lot of calories. But let's say that you're eating those calories back, or you're not actually following any type of meal plan, which Orange Theory doesn't give you any type of meal plan. So we can't tell if we're in a calorie deficit there. We don't know. You can be some days, you might not be. Sometimes when you do a lot of cardio, you actually end up eating more because you're hungrier. So no calorie deficit there. right? No calorie deficit. Now, we talk about progressive strength training. Are you actually going to be progressively strength training when you go there? So typically when you're in an Orange Theory session, they do have weights, but it's not structured, meaning that if you squatted the 30-pound dumbbell today and you did that for 12 reps, next time you came in, you did 35 for the same 12 reps, and then 40, and then 50, and then 60. That's how you progress, and that's how you basically tell your body, like, hey, don't get rid of muscle. So they don't do that there. It's just about the burn. They even say that. That's part of their marketing. It's just about the burn. It's just about burning as many calories as you can and beating your points. So no progressive strength training there. So overall, that one is not going to get you as lean and in shape as possible. Because again, you're not progressing with your weight training. You're not doing a smart protocol. And you might not be in a calorie deficit, especially if they don't give you a nutrition plan to follow. How do you know? You're not going to know. Weight Watchers. So Weight Watchers is a common diet trend that's been around for quite some time. So Weight Watchers, again, it ultimately ensures you're in a calorie deficit. So we'll give it one checkbox, right? It makes that you are in a calorie deficit. But it doesn't add any, they don't tell you what to do. Maybe they tell you go for a walk. I don't even know what they would tell you there as far as exercise goes. So it's only one portion of this. So it's not going to be the full secret to actually getting in shape. It's not going to give it to you. Most people, when they want to try to lose as much fat as possible, and I hear this all the time, I'm just going to do cardio. I'm just going to go do a bunch of cardio. I just have to burn the fat. I'm just going to do a bunch of cardio. Very similar to the Orange Theory, when you do a lot of cardio, you're just going to be burning calories. And without that demand for the muscle that you have, your body's going to say, oh, I don't need this muscle mass. It's not important. I'm just going to burn everything. So again, using my example from before, you weigh 150 pounds, you lose 50 pounds, maybe 20 of it was fat, but 30 of it was muscle. And that's not good. Now you have a slower metabolic rate, your body digests food differently. Muscle is very important when you're looking to get as lean as possible. So hours of cardio, again, yes, you'll be in a calorie deficit, but you might be eating those calories back. So we don't know, right? So we put a question mark for that one. Again, no strength training element to it. You're just burning calories. So that's not going to help us. Keto, low carb. I'm just going to cut carbs out. People demonize carbohydrates. In fact, carbohydrates are at the lowest they've been in so many years, but yet the obesity epidemic is on the rise. So what does that tell you? It's not the carbs. It's being in a calorie deficit. Nowadays, it's very hard to be in a calorie deficit because even if you go out to eat and you get a salad, the salad's 1,200 calories. Easily the most highest item on the menu calorie-wise. So, if you switch to doing keto, yes, you cut out pastas and breads and stuff, and unless you're tracking your nutrition and unless you're actually doing it the right way, we don't know if you're in a calorie deficit. You just swapped out carbs for more fat. So yes, you cut out the pastas, but now you're adding in bacon, you're adding in butter, you're putting butter in your coffee. You're doing all these other things that are associated with keto. So again, we can be in a calorie deficit. Maybe you are. Some days you're eating less, but maybe other days you're eating more. And realistically, how sustainable is that one? So the other key, we have to come back to this one, right? Key number 1 plus key number 2 is going to get you in shape. So key number 2, progressive strength training. Nowhere in keto do they talk about building muscle, anywhere, or maintaining muscle or working out or anything like that. So we're going to give this one the big X. Let's move on to intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting has been around for quite some time and has been made popular by a lot of people online. And it just, again, it's a really easy way to do it. You only eat for a certain period of time. Typically it's 8 hours of fasting, 8-hour eating, and a 16-hour window of fasting. So the good thing about intermittent fasting is it's easier to stay in a calorie deficit because now you got to shove all your food in an 8-hour window, and it just makes things a little bit easier. But again, if we're not tracking, if we're not keeping logs of what we're eating, how do we know if we're actually in a calorie deficit? If I go out to eat and I didn't eat all day and I go out to eat, I can easily have 2,000 calories, 2,200 calories without even blinking an eye. So even though I only ate one meal, is that really gonna help me stay in a calorie deficit if I have no idea what I'm doing? Maybe, maybe not. It's all dependent. Yes, you can get results on any of these things if you're in a calorie deficit, but you're not gonna get the results that you're looking for, which is that body fat loss. So yes, we can be in a deficit with intermittent fasting, but are we definitely gonna be able to do that? Are we tracking? Are we checking those boxes, right? We are, we might not be. So it does make it a little bit easier, but it's not necessarily for sure thing. Remember, intermittent fasting is not a diet, it's actually a tool. So if you're tracking everything, intermittent fasting can work. So we'll give that a check, right? So you can work with a calorie deficit. But now we have to apply it to key number 2. Does intermittent fasting tell you to weight train and be progressive with your workouts and making sure that you're beating your previous best every time and it's programmed and progressed? Not really. A lot of people who use intermittent fasting who get in shape are actually applying this second key also in addition to that. So you have to have both those elements in order to do that. But again, intermittent fasting is not a diet. That's what most people forget. It's not a diet. It's just a tool in the toolbox. So again, if you're looking to get in best shape as possible and you're just doing intermittent fasting and that's it, nothing's gonna help you there. So it doesn't fit the criteria of both keys. Let's talk about boot camps. Boot camps are typically 20 to 30 people in a room doing one big workout and people are dying. You know, that's the whole thing. It's like it's the hardest workout that you can do. And yes, I could put you through a very, very hard workout. You'd be dead on the floor, you'd be dripping sweat. But again, is that productive when it comes to building muscle and losing body fat? So yes, you may be using some weights in those sessions, but if you're using weights in those classes, that's not progression. If you're using 8-pound dumbbells, 12-pound dumbbells, and you're not programming this out, you're not ensuring that you're progressing workout to workout. A lot of these bootcamp places actually tout the benefit of, oh, always switching up your workout and always guessing. Well, the problem is that if you're always guessing, you're not gonna get better and you're not gonna tell your body to maintain a lot of that muscle tissue. So very similar to Orange Theory, you're just gonna be burning calories. So yes, it might put you in a calorie deficit, but with no nutritional tracking or anything like that, you're not gonna lose the body fat that you're looking for. And again, you are lifting some weights there, but it's not with progression. It's not smart training. It's just randomly working out. And there's a difference between working out and actually training. And when you're training, you're putting on muscle, you're maintaining your amount of muscle that you have, you're increasing your metabolic rate and the way your body digests foods, and you're ultimately gonna change the way your body looks. So, no meal plan there, no calorie deficit there, not a good protocol to do, and a lot of people do get hurt from using those modalities. All right, let's talk about Beachbody tapes. Very, very similar to the boot camp, right? And Orange Theory, very similar to that. Whereas it's one on many, so there's no instructor, you're just kind of like watching something and you're watching and following along. So there's a chance that you could be doing things incorrectly. But do they give you a meal plan? They might, right? They might. But are you staying accountable to it? Are you doing it? Are you following it 7 days, right? Maybe, maybe not. So it all depends. So we can give it a little half check for calorie deficit if they do give you that. I don't know if they do. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. If they do give you a meal plan, they might not. I don't know. Progressive strength training. If you're doing Beachbody, typically you're doing body weight movements or light dumbbells in your house. You're not gonna have enough stimulus to tell your body to maintain that muscle mass with that. There's only so much you can get to. And remember, you don't just wanna be doing workouts. You wanna be training. And the difference there is progression and keeping track of things. Very similar to how we talk about when you're in a calorie deficit, logging your macronutrients. Are you having enough protein? Are you having enough calories? Are you eating this? Are you doing that? Those details are very, very important when it comes to stimulating muscle mass and with your progressive strength training. That's just a workout. Again, random, which is not good for maintaining muscle and losing body fat. All right, let's talk about Shakeology and all these other shakes. Shakeology and all these other things, again, just toting the benefit of have this is what's gonna actually make you lose body fat. And that is totally incorrect. You need to be in a calorie deficit. In order to be in a calorie deficit, you need to be eating less calories. So is having a shake gonna get you there? if you're replacing that shake with lunch, yes, it's less calories, but then if you go out to eat on the weekend and you destroy your calorie limit, you're not going to be in a calorie deficit. So that kind of answers that one, right? Maybe, maybe not. So it's a little half check, but we don't know. Any pills they give you or anything like that, you're not going to lose anything unless you're in a calorie deficit. So, and again, there's no weight training element to that. They don't tell you to go out and follow this program and write down your weights and keep track of how many sets you're doing and overall volume and make sure that you're improving that over time. Make sure your form is good. Nothing like that. So we can X that out. All right, gyms. Gyms are great. Gyms have every piece of type of equipment, right? Problem with gyms is they don't give you any meal plans to follow to help you get into the shape that you want. When I first joined the gym, I told them my goal was to gain 50 pounds of muscle. And they looked at me like I was crazy. Well, I was also 110 pounds at the time. But anyway, that was my goal at the time. And they said, yeah, just join and come to the gym. You're going to get in great shape. So I came and went to the gym and nothing happened because I was not following a nutritional protocol. So they give you the tools. Again, very similar to intermittent fasting is this tool. They give you the tools like here, you have access to the weights. You can use them. Do whatever you want. You want to do them right? You want to do them wrong? I don't care. Just come. They're not going to call you and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, how you doing? Are you on track with your goals? No, they're going to call you and say, hey, Mrs. Jones, your credit card on file is expired. You got to re-update this credit card. And then you're like, well, I don't even go. So gyms can put you in a calorie deficit and they can give you the progressive strength training if you know what you're doing. So this one, I guess we'll put a big question mark here, but it's also an X too because they're not going to give you a meal plan. They're just not. They're not going to give you a meal plan. They're not going to give you the first key. So again, key number 1 is missing. So they're not going to give you that key. All right, and the gastric sleeve. This one I love the most. So many people have come to us who've had the gastric sleeve and people swear by it. But I also know so many people who've had the gastric sleeve who have gained a lot of weight back. So what the gastric sleeve actually does is it actually teaches you portion control and controlling your portions because now you're forced to eat half the meal that you used to eat before. So that's how it helps. It creates the calorie deficit. It creates that. It makes it happen. It forces you to have a calorie deficit and be in a calorie deficit. So with the gastric sleeve, the only issue with that is it's not teaching you how to actually do it. It's forcing you to do it. So the problem, most people who have the gastric sleeve have nutrition imbalances. They're not getting in the vitamins and minerals they need. They're not getting in adequate amount of protein that they need. So yes, it can put you in a calorie deficit, so we'll give it a half check. But most of the time, the doctors don't tell you, hey, make sure you go out and do a progressive strength training program and go and lift weights. They won't tell you that. They don't tell you that. And the problem with most of those is that they actually need to do that because when you lose a bunch of weight like that, you're gonna lose muscle mass with it. And when you lose muscle mass, like I said, your metabolic rate changes. The way your body digests foods change. You're not as efficient at digesting carbs that the way you would be if you were eating for muscle mass and eating for maintaining muscle. So it doesn't have that key number 2 in there. So again, I'm not saying that the gastric sleeve is bad. It creates the calorie deficit. It forces it, which is a good thing because it's forcing you to stay in a calorie deficit. But again, it all boils down to the same thing. Are you having enough protein to maintain the amount of muscle that you have? Are you getting the right nutrients that you need to actually lose the body fat and stay in shape and obviously stay healthy? So we don't know. And again, they're not telling you to weight train. So we're going to X that. And now as a bonus, I'm going to tell you and explain why at AB Fitness Center, we actually give you key number 1 and key number 2 because it's so important. So whether you work with us in person or online, or you follow one of the programs, I'm always gonna make sure that I'm giving you key number 1 and key number 2 because again, those are the 2 elements when combined are gonna ultimately get you in the best shape possible. So we all give all of our clients a calorie deficit. We teach people how to eat long term. We utilize flexible dieting and we allow people to be as flexible with their nutrition as possible, but we also track the important things and teach you how to eat. So for example, if Mrs. Jones, if it's her birthday and she wants a piece of cake, she can't have cake on keto, right? She can have cake on everything else. She can have it, but it might not be in a calorie deficit. But we teach Mrs. Jones like, hey, if you want that piece of cake, You could have it. I'm not going to tell you not to have it. You just have to factor it into your totals for the day and your allotment of what you're supposed to have. So again, teaching you number one so you can sustain the results long term. And then again, key number two, when you visit us in person, we're going to actually show you how to build a structured program and how to follow through and commit to that long term. Again, tracking the weights, tracking the volume that you're lifting, making sure that your form is correct, because again, we want to make sure that we're utilizing as much of this as possible to make sure that your metabolism stay as high as possible, make sure that you're as strong as possible, so this way, for the long haul, you're gonna see the best results possible. So, and yes, I'm gonna be a little bit biased here, because of course, I put this together, but this AB Fitness has come together from 20 years plus of experience, going through each one of these different modalities and experiencing all different people on all different walks of life, going through this, people who have been doing boot camps for years, who are frustrated with everything that they're doing and still not getting the results that they're looking for. And again, it's always because they're missing two key elements: a calorie deficit and a progressive strength training program. So hopefully this makes sense to you. So if you're not getting results right now, then you need to look at these two keys, figure out what's missing, and then apply that. If you need help on any of that, just make sure you click that link below, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.